Hey everybody, this is Alex Fabrega coming at you again with another Teaching Tips Tuesday. Today I have with me Michael Meyers. He is an OT here at FBC. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to be here on the channel. Excited to start to delve down a world of sensory strategies today.
Absolutely, and that is a perfect segue into our topic today, and that is sensory strategies for body regulation. So, can you just kind of give us a primer on what sensory channels are we talking about?
Yes, so we're going to talk about, we all grew up learning that we have 5 sensory systems. We actually have 7. So everybody gets to learn something today. The 2 extra sensory systems that we'll discuss today are called proprioceptive sensory systems and vestibular sensory systems. And the strategies that we'll be discussing today to address these systems are going to be movement-based strategies, because there's a plethora of options out there on how we can address these sensory systems to help regulate our students' bodies that are outside of movement. But today we'll be focusing on movement. But before we get too deep into the details, I want to discuss the fundamental underlying definitions of how we define these 2 sensory systems. So obviously we have the 5: touch, taste, sound, sight, and
You're touching it. You're touching the organ right now.
I said touch, right? Oh, smell.
Smell.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 that we all know and love and cherish. But the other 2, so we'll start with proprioception. So proprioception, as it should be defined on the most fundamental level, is our body's awareness of ourselves in space. Okay. So when a child grows up with a visual impairment and they're not able to be as aware of where their body is in space because their vision is occluded, those sensory systems can be sometimes disrupted. So we'll just give a slight example. So if your eyes are closed and you raise your arm in this position, you're able to know in your mind that your arm is right here. Okay. Now, because our kids go without vision, there oftentimes can be complications with their ability to understand where their body is in space. So that's where the strategies come into play, where we can give them input into this system to help develop those systems. And in turn, there's also the added bonus of it being a very calming and also alerting effect. So it can be 2 different types of effects that these systems can promote in our students' bodies. So if we think about so our nose is in charge of smelling, our ears are in charge of hearing. Where are the proprioceptors? Great question. They are
Joints, right?
located. They're located inside of our joints. That's right. And so when we get deep pressure, like big hugs, big squeezes, when we're in positions of jumping up and down, we're getting big input into those knee joints. So we're going to discuss strategies today that you can implement in your classrooms or at home to facilitate good opportunities that are related to movement with giving our students deep pressure to their joints that are beyond just, light touch.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right into it.
Well, we forgot about the second one. So the second,
Vestibular. I'm sorry.
I hope everybody has their notepads out.
Yeah.
So the second sensory system that we're going to talk about today is the vestibular sensory system. And the vestibular sensory system is located inside of our inner ears. So it's in charge of balance and where our head is in space. So again, going back to the fundamental level of when we don't have vision as a child, sometimes these systems can be disrupted and we're not necessarily aware of where our head is in space. And so addressing the vestibular systems can be a great way to help promote development in these areas. And again, that added bonus of it can be a very calming or alerting, depending on how you approach the strategies to assist with our students' self-regulation. So now
We can get right into it. All right.
I'll show
Cool,
you some of these strategies. So I'm going to bring us over down onto the floor.
Going on a field trip.
We're going to be down on the floor. This is my best friend. This is the peanut ball right here. This is.
Can you turn it so we can see the whole shape of it?
Huh?
Can you pick it up and turn it so we can see the whole shape of it?
Yes, great idea. So typically it's the shape. This is more of a elongated peanut ball. I wanted to find a smaller one that can fit with our doll here today, but typically it's the size of a peanut. Okay. So this peanut ball is my best friend because we can put our kids into 3 different positions that will promote great sensory proprioceptive input into their body systems, and it can either alert them or calm them down.
Excellent.
Okay. So the first position that we'll put our kids in is each leg goes on either side of the peanut ball. And we'll call this doll Floppy because she likes to flop. So I like this position because, first of all, this is a great way. If you see my hands here, I'll come a little bit closer. Our hands are around their hips. Okay. So this is the best way to promote supporting our kids in a position where they're, this is our center of gravity right here. So the more support that we have at the hips, the better. Okay. Now, the first strategy I like to do is let's get them bouncing. So we're going to just get some bouncing in, that we're getting good. And don't be afraid to give some good pushes while we're bouncing, good input to their hips. Okay. Now, our hips are a big center of input. There's lots of proprioceptors in here. So when we're getting that pressure into those hips, we're pushing them down. We're pushing them down. Okay. Now we can start to lean them a little bit. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're leaning down on each side. We can typically lean which way to get their foot planted on the ground so they can feel supported. But this is promoting a lot of core strengthening in the side, in the front, in the back of our core. Okay.
I imagine you're getting some good vestibular input too with those changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Alex, because that's absolutely true. Because where is our head now in space if we're trying to correct our bodies to stay upright instead of flopping over this way when we're leaning? Remember, we're always promoting them to stay upright in these positions when we're leaning. Now our inner ear systems, which is the vestibular system, is getting input. Okay, this is where my head needs to be as I start to lean in this direction, Okay. So this is a great position that I like to put kids in who aren't able to really sit upright by themselves. Okay. Now, if we have a kid who's able to help a little bit more with using their legs to help bounce, we can put them on the side of the peanut ball. Okay. So now their legs are flat on the floor, and we can still support at their hips here, and they can help with bouncing up and down. Okay. Now we can still kind of get some leaning going if we lean on each side, and they can still get those core activation, but still great opportunities to get them some proprioceptive input into their hips and legs. Now, this is my favorite position to promote for a variety of reasons. We love tummy time, right? So we're going to get our kids onto their tummies, onto the peanut ball. Okay. Now, the peanut ball is a great way to promote functional tummy time with keeping their heads up. Okay, we're gonna keep Floppy's head up. And so obviously we're not gonna be leaning on our children like
dropping the elbow on them, yeah.
But we can get their elbows supported on. Typically, I like to get our kids introduced, not throwing them immediately on the ball. We can get their knees on the floor first. You can see here, their knees are on the floor first, and then we can just have them tap. We can get some good input by slamming on the ball into our hands. And then what we can also do is we can just give them an antecedent warning, and we can say, hey, we're going to start to lean forward. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, forward. Okay, so now let's get you down on the floor. This is really important for our kids to be able to have their hands in weight-bearing positions. Okay, so when we bear weight through our systems, we're getting good proprioceptive input into our hands. Okay, so this is just some good ways to get proprioceptive input into our hands, our torso, our hips, our arms. And then guess what, Alex? When we're rocking back and forth, what sensory system is that also addressing?
Vestibular.
Our vestibular system. Thank you very much. So today, basically, the name of the game is the power of the peanut ball, and how this simple little device can be such a beautiful, can make such a beautiful impact on our kids' lives, and getting them their sensory systems regulated and developing their sensory systems, and in turn, just making them more ready for learning.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for showing us these great peanut strategies. I have one more question for you, Michael, and
Of
that is,
course.
what is your favorite part of your job?
You know what? That's such a good question, because I
Thank
think
you.
it can relate to what we talked about today. My favorite part about this job is just the little things, just the simple things that we can do as myself as an occupational therapist that can make such a big difference. So something just as simple as a peanut ball or a swing or an adapted utensil, just this tiny little concept can make this exorbitant impact on a kid's life. And when you see how big of an impact it has, it's just incredible, and it makes me feel great, and it makes the kids feel great because it has a good impact on their lives. And yeah, I would say that's my favorite part about this job.
Okay. It's amazing how sometimes you never know what that little thing is going to be. Something
Yeah.
that is just like a casual one-off idea, all of a sudden, like, takes a kid down a whole new path.
Yes.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much for being on Teaching Tips Tuesday today, Michael.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, I'm sure you have more interesting. I
Yeah.
saw the swing back there. There's the tumble
Yes.
form back there. You got a lot of
Yes.
fun tools.
This is the room where it happens.
All right, and I want to thank everybody at home for watching
Another episode of
Teaching Tips Tuesday. If you have a topic you want to see addressed, please leave it in the comments. I will try and find an expert to talk about it, and we hope to see you next week.